Sometimes, missing the opportunity you've been waiting for leads you exactly where you're meant to be. Leela woke up before sunrise. The cold morning air brushing against her face as she rubbed the sleep from her eyes. Her small apartment was quiet, except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the old wooden floorboards. She took a deep breath, thinking about the day ahead. Today wasn't just any day. It was the day she had an interview for the office job she had been dreaming about for months. Finally, a chance to leave behind the late-night shifts, the endless tips, and the exhaustion that came with working at the diner. She dressed quickly, smoothing out the wrinkles on her simple blouse, and glanced at the clock. There was still plenty of time as she walked to the bus stop. Her mind raced with anticipation. She had rehearsed the questions and her answers dozens of times, imagining herself sitting across from the interviewers, confident and composed. Her heart swelled with hope, thinking about what life could be like if she got this job. Maybe she could save more, pay off some bills, and finally take her little brother on a vacation, something they hadn't done in years. Maybe she could even move to a slightly better apartment, where the plumbing worked and the floors didn't creak so loudly. Lila's dreams felt so close she could almost touch them, just as she reached the street corner. A sudden commotion caught her attention. A woman, elderly and frail, was struggling to carry 2 large grocery bags. Her face was lined with age, and she seemed confused, her balance uncertain as she tried to navigate the uneven pavement. People were rushing past, busy with their own mornings, no one stopping to help. Leela's first instinct was to keep moving, to catch her bus on time. But as she watched the woman wobble, fear flashing in her eyes, something inside Leela shifted. She couldn't just ignore her. Lila ran toward the woman, holding out her hands. "Excuse me, ma'am. Let me help you with those," she said softly. The woman looked up, startled but relieved. Together, they managed to get the bags out of the woman's hands, and Lila steadied her as they walked slowly toward a nearby bench. The woman's voice was trembling as she thanked her repeatedly, and Lila felt a warmth in her chest she hadn't felt in a long time. There was no rush here, no ticking clock, just the simple human connection of helping someone who needed it as they walked. Leela learned a little about the woman. Her name was Eleanor. She lived alone, and she often shopped early in the mornings to avoid the crowds. Eleanor's voice was gentle, and Leela noticed a quiet dignity in the way she carried herself despite her frailty. They reached a small cafe, where Eleanor wanted to rest for a moment. Lila set the grocery bags down and offered to sit with her, worried that she might fall if left alone. The cafe smelled of fresh bread and coffee. It's comforting in a way that reminded Lila of simpler times. Sitting there, Lila glanced at her watch, and panic began to creep in. The bus would come soon, and she was already late for her interview. A small knot of anxiety formed in her stomach, threatening to ruin the satisfaction she felt from helping the woman. But then she looked at Eleanor, who was smiling faintly, her eyes warm and grateful. Leela realized that this small act of kindness, though it might cost her, mattered more in that moment than her own schedule. Her mind battled itself. She wanted the job more than anything, but she also couldn't turn her back on someone who needed her help. Finally, Leela made her choice. "Don't worry about me. I'll be fine," Eleanor said, sensing Lila's hesitation. Lila shook her head. "No, I should stay a little longer." "I can't just leave you like this," she replied. She helped Eleanor settle her groceries, made sure she was comfortable, and even offered to carry her bags the rest of the way home. Time seemed to stretch as they slowly moved through the streets, passing morning joggers and busy commuters. Every step Leela took was a reminder of the decision she had made, not the easier choice, but the right one, at least in her heart. As they approached Eleanor's building, Leela noticed a sense of pride in the woman's eyes. "You've been so kind," Eleanor said softly. Lila felt a lump in her throat. She wanted to explain that it wasn't about kindness, that she was just doing what anyone should do, but she didn't need to. The gratitude in Eleanor's eyes said everything. Lila finally left Eleanor at her door, waving goodbye as the woman promised to remember her kindness. Walking back toward the bus stop, Lila's heart felt heavy with both satisfaction and worry. She knew she would be late for the interview, and the thought made her stomach twist with nervous anticipation. But even as panic rose, she felt a quiet sense of pride. She had chosen compassion over convenience, humanity over ambition, and somehow that felt right. The streets seemed brighter, and the morning sun felt warmer on her face, as if acknowledging the small but meaningful choice she had made by the time she reached the bus stop. She was aware of the reality she had to face missing the interview. This might cost her a chance at the life she had been dreaming of. But in that moment, Lila understood that some choices were bigger than schedules or appointments. They were about who you were, what you valued, and the mark you left on the people around you. Helping Eleanor had reminded her of something she often forgot in the rush of her own life, that kindness mattered, even when it didn't come with immediate rewards. Lila boarded the bus with a mix of worry and hope. She wasn't sure what the day would bring now, whether doors would close or open in new ways, but she knew she had done something meaningful. Her dreams of a better life were still alive, just delayed for a moment. And perhaps this delay was part of a larger story she didn't yet understand. Whatever happened next, she carried with her a quiet confidence that comes from knowing that when faced with a choice, she had chosen the path of integrity, and that was never wasted no matter what. Lila's steps felt heavier than usual as she hurried toward the office building where her interview was supposed to take place. The morning sun had climbed higher, and the streets were buzzing with people already deep in their routines. She clutched her folder tightly, the one that held her resume and the notes she had practiced over and over again. In her mind, she recited answers to questions that she might face, each one carefully rehearsed, each one meant to make her sound confident and capable. But as she approached the entrance of the office building, a cold, sinking feeling settled in her stomach. She arrived only to find the receptionist shaking her head, giving her a polite but firm apology. "I'm sorry, the position has already been filled," the receptionist said. Lila's heart dropped. Her hands trembled slightly as she thanked the receptionist, barely able to keep her voice steady. She had been so careful, so hopeful, yet somehow the universe had conspired against her today. She tried to process it. Maybe the interviewers had started without her. Maybe someone had arrived earlier and been chosen. The disappointment hit her like a heavy wave, knocking her confidence down before it could even rise. Walking back onto the busy city street, Lila felt her excitement from the morning drain away, replaced by frustration and self-blame. She couldn't stop thinking about the choice she had made to help Eleanor. Every step she took back to the bus stop felt like it carried the weight of her mistake. She wondered whether she had been foolish to put someone else before herself, even if it was the right thing to do. What if this had been her only chance to change her life, to escape the cycle of long hours at the diner and endless worry about bills? Regret pressed in on her from all sides, making it hard to breathe. The streets that had seemed vibrant and full of opportunity in the morning now felt overwhelming and indifferent. People passed by, heads down, focused on their own schedules and goals. Lila felt invisible in a way she hadn't before, like her small dream of a better life didn't matter at all. She remembered the moments with Eleanor, the gratitude in her eyes, the soft smile that had made Lila feel warm and proud. But pride and satisfaction didn't pay bills, didn't secure the future she had hoped for. And now that reality was pressing against her in the most painful way. Back at the diner, the familiar smell of frying bacon and coffee greeted her, a mixture of comfort and monotony. She put on her apron and returned to her usual routine, but everything felt different. The sizzle of the grill, the chatter of regular customers, the clatter of plates, it all seemed louder and more oppressive, a reminder of the gap between the life she had and the life she dreamed of. Lila's hands shook slightly as she poured coffee, and she caught herself staring into the dark liquid. Thinking about what could have been, her coworkers noticed the change immediately. Maria, who had worked at the diner for years and often offered unsolicited advice, leaned over and asked what was wrong. Lila forced a smile, hiding the tears that threatened to spill. "Just tired," she said, but the exhaustion she felt was more than physical. It was emotional, the kind that comes from hope being crushed and dreams deferred. She served tables mechanically, her mind elsewhere, replaying every moment of the morning, questioning every choice she had made. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Customers came and went, chatting and laughing, but Lila felt disconnected. like she was moving through a world that didn't care about her struggles or sacrifices. When the last plate was cleared and the diner quieted down, she sat on one of the stools, wiping her hands on her apron, staring out the window at the fading light. The sky was streaked with pinks and purples, beautiful yet distant, reminding her of the life she wanted but couldn't reach. She thought about her brother, imagining how proud he would have been if she had gotten the job. The guilt mixed with longing made her chest ache. Lila tried to shake off the feelings, telling herself that she had done the right thing by helping Eleanor. But as night fell and the diner closed, the practical reality returned. Her choice had cost her a golden opportunity. She felt trapped in a life of routine and struggle, where moments of kindness could not always be rewarded. The sense of helplessness weighed heavily on her, and she found herself sitting alone in the dark kitchen. Feeling small in a city that moved too fast and rarely stopped for anyone, her phone buzzed softly, breaking the silence. It was a text from her brother, checking in as he always did. Lila smiled faintly, grateful for the small connection. But even his cheerful words couldn't completely lift the cloud of disappointment. She wanted to tell him that she had messed up, that she had chosen the wrong moment to be kind, but the words felt bitter and unfair. She typed a quick reply, keeping it light and positive, hiding the turmoil that churned inside her. That night, lying in bed, Lila replayed every choice she had made that morning. She wondered if life was cruel, or if perhaps this was a lesson in patience, in understanding that the world didn't always reward immediate good deeds. She thought about Eleanor again, hoping the woman had gotten home safely, and realized that while her heart felt heavy with regret, there was also a faint, stubborn spark of pride. She had acted with compassion when it mattered, and that was something she could not take back, no matter the cost. Sleep came fitfully, with dreams of what could have been mingled with visions of what might still come. Lila held on to a fragile hope that somehow in ways she could not yet see, her actions might lead to something meaningful. The disappointment of missing the interview would linger, but so would the memory of that small act of kindness. Even in her despair, she felt a quiet reminder that life was unpredictable, and sometimes the doors that close are replaced by doors she had never imagined. By morning, Lila rose with a mixture of determination and lingering doubt. She would continue her work at the diner, continue to care for her brother, and continue to dream. The missed interview felt like a weight she could not shake. But deep down, a small voice whispered that this was not the end of her story. Somehow, someway, the choices she had made today, both right and costly, might lead her to something greater than she could foresee. Lila woke up the next morning, still thinking about the previous day, her mind a mixture of worry and lingering hope. Even though she had missed the interview, something inside her refused to give up. Life had a strange way of testing people, she thought, sometimes in ways that didn't make sense at the moment. She got ready for her shifts at the diner, putting on her apron and tying her hair back, trying to push aside the lingering disappointment. She went about her morning routine mechanically, serving coffee, taking orders, and cleaning tables, her thoughts drifting constantly back to the elderly woman she had helped. The day passed like any other. The hum of the diner and the chatter of customers filling the space, but nothing felt ordinary to Lila. Every little detail reminded her of the choice she had made, the look of gratitude on Eleanor's face, the softness of her voice, and the way she had seemed to trust Lila instantly. It was strange to think about someone she barely knew, someone who had changed the course of her day, and yet left a mark on her heart that lingered like sunlight after the clouds had passed. When Lila returned home that evening, she was exhausted from the long day, but she found a small envelope waiting on her kitchen table. It was elegant, thick, and unlike any letter she had ever received. Curiosity and confusion mixed together as she carefully opened it. Inside, she found a neatly folded note written in elegant handwriting and a small business card. Her eyes widened as she read the note. It was from Eleanor Chambers, the woman she had helped, the same elderly woman whose smile had filled her with warmth and pride the day before. The note expressed gratitude for Lila's kindness and invited her to meet for a personal conversation at Eleanor's residence. Lila's heart raced. She couldn't believe it. This wasn't something that happened in real life, she thought. The woman she had helped wasn't just kind. She was important, more important than Lila could have imagined. She stared at the business card, recognizing the name immediately: Eleanor Chambers, a billionaire CEO whose company was known worldwide. Lila's hands trembled as she reread the note, disbelief mixing with excitement. She'd spent her whole life dreaming of opportunities like this, but never in her wildest dreams had she imagined they could arrive in such an unexpected way. The next morning, Lila dressed carefully, choosing a simple yet professional outfit. She still felt nervous, unsure of what to expect, but also strangely hopeful. She took a deep breath as she entered Eleanor's neighborhood, a luxurious area of the city that felt completely different from the streets she walked every day. The buildings were tall, pristine, and gleaming in the morning sun. Lila walked up to Eleanor's residence, a grand mansion surrounded by manicured gardens. She rang the doorbell, her heart pounding, was greeted by a polite assistant who led her inside. Eleanor welcomed Lila personally, her presence calm and commanding. She was frail in appearance, but her eyes held a sharpness and warmth that made Lila immediately feel at ease. Eleanor gestured for Lila to sit, and they shared a quiet moment of small talk, easing into conversation. Lila found herself speaking naturally, telling Eleanor about her life, her struggles, and her dreams. Eleanor listened intently, nodding and smiling occasionally, but always with a sense of curiosity and genuine interest. As the conversation continued, Eleanor began to explain why she had reached out. She told Lila that she had been observing people in her company and in her life, looking for those rare qualities that money and education couldn't teach: kindness, integrity, and a genuine willingness to help others without expecting anything in return. Eleanor explained that she saw those qualities in Lila, and that her small act of helping an elderly stranger had revealed a character that could not be measured on a resume or through experience alone. Lila listened, stunned, as Eleanor outlined an offer that she had never imagined possible. She would be offered a position in Eleanor's company, one that would allow her to grow, learn, and contribute in meaningful ways. The offer wasn't just about a job, it was an opportunity to be part of something bigger, to step into a world that Lila had only ever dreamed of. Eleanor emphasized that she wanted people in her company who valued humanity as much as skill, and that she believed Lila had the potential to excel not just professionally, but morally as well. The room felt surreal to Lila. She remembered the panic she had felt when she missed her interview, the disappointment and fear that her dreams had slipped away, and now, in a twist she couldn't have predicted, her compassion had opened a door that she hadn't even known existed. Tears welled up in her eyes as she thanked Eleanor, feeling a mixture of gratitude, relief, and disbelief. It seemed almost impossible that a simple act of kindness, something she had done without thinking twice, could have led to this extraordinary moment. Eleanor smiled. As if she understood the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside Lila, she reassured her that the company valued people who were genuine, who acted from the heart rather than for personal gain. Lila felt a sense of belonging she had never felt before, a realization that there were people in the world who appreciated qualities she had always considered ordinary. This meeting wasn't just an opportunity. It was a validation of her choices, her values, and her belief in doing what was right. After the meeting, Lila left Eleanor's home with a sense of excitement and nervous energy. The city's streets, which had once felt overwhelming and indifferent, now seemed filled with possibility. Every step she took felt lighter, every breath more purposeful. She knew her life was about to change, in ways that she could barely comprehend, yet felt ready to embrace. The missed interview, the long hours at the diner, the struggles she had endured, they all felt like pieces of a puzzle that had led her to this moment. For the first time in a long time, Lila felt a sense of hope that wasn't tentative or fragile. She thought about her brother, imagining the look on his face when she told him about the opportunity. She thought about the diner, the people she had worked with, and even the customers who had come and gone, unaware of the turning point in her life. It all felt connected, a series of small moments that had accumulated into something extraordinary. That night, Lila lay in bed, unable to sleep fully because her mind buzzed with anticipation. She replayed the conversation with Eleanor, remembering every word, every gesture, and every hint of encouragement. The possibilities ahead were endless, and while she knew there would be challenges, she also knew that she had been chosen not for perfection, but for her heart. The thought gave her a quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't demand recognition, but simply grows from knowing that one's actions matter. Lila realized that life had a way of rewarding people in unexpected ways. The missed interview, which had felt like a failure and a setback, was actually part of a larger plan she could not yet see. Her choice to help Eleanor had not been calculated, and yet it had opened doors that no careful planning could have achieved. The irony was almost beautiful, a reminder that kindness, even in small doses, had a power that could change lives in ways beyond imagination. By morning, Lila woke up with renewed determination. She knew that the path ahead would be challenging, filled with learning, adaptation, and growth. But she also knew that she was ready to step into it. The meeting with Eleanor had not only offered her a professional opportunity, but also a life lesson that integrity, empathy, and courage could sometimes be more valuable than timing or luck. With a heart full of hope, she prepared herself for the next chapter, knowing that her life was about to transform in ways she had only dreamed of before. Lila couldn't stop thinking about the meeting with Eleanor Chambers. Every detail from the day replayed in her mind: the elegance of Eleanor's home, the calm strength in her voice, the way she listened with genuine interest. It was almost surreal to think that the small act of helping a frail woman with her groceries had led to this extraordinary opportunity. Lila had spent most of her life working hard for little reward, but now, for the first time, she felt that her choices, her character, and her heart mattered in a world that had often seemed indifferent. The following morning, Lila returned to Eleanor's office as she had been invited. Her nerves were present, but they were mingled with excitement and hope. She walked into the spacious lobby, the kind she had only ever seen in movies and in magazines, and was greeted warmly by Eleanor's assistant, who led her into a bright, sunlit office. Eleanor was waiting, standing by a large window that overlooked the city. She smiled as Lila entered, a calm yet powerful presence that immediately put Lila at ease. "Good morning, Lila," Eleanor said. "I'm glad you came." Her voice was gentle, but carried a weight that made Lila sit up straighter. "I want to talk to you about an opportunity, one that is very different from what you might expect. But first, I want you to understand why you are here." Lila listened intently, her hands folded in her lap, as Eleanor began to explain her philosophy and vision for her company. Eleanor ascribed how she valued people, not just for their skills or education, but for their character. She spoke about how many people in powerful positions often lacked empathy, understanding, or integrity. She said she wanted to build a team that didn't just excel in business, but also cared about the people around them, the customers, and the community. Lila felt a mix of awe and inspiration. She had never imagined that a company could prioritize human values so strongly, and she realized that this was a place where she could not only succeed professionally, but also grow as a person. Then Eleanor got to the point. She offered Lila a position in her company, one that wasn't just a job, but a chance to learn and contribute to meaningful projects. The role would challenge her, push her to develop skills she'd never thought she could master, and provide guidance and mentorship that was rare to find. Eleanor explained that she believed Lila's compassion, integrity, and willingness to help others had demonstrated a kind of intelligence that could not be taught in school. It was exactly the kind of quality she wanted on her team. Lila felt her heart race. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. For so long, she had felt trapped in the routine of her life, working long hours at the diner, barely making ends meet, dreaming of something better, but never knowing how to reach it. And now, suddenly a door had opened, one she had not even dared to knock on. She felt a wave of gratitude and disbelief wash over her, mixed with a nervous excitement about what this new chapter could mean. Eleanor continued, explaining the support Lila would receive in her role. She would have training, guidance from experienced mentors, and the freedom to contribute ideas and grow at her own pace. Eleanor emphasized that she wanted people who were willing to learn, willing to take risks, and willing to do the right thing even when no one was watching. Lila realized that this was more than a career opportunity. It was a chance to be part of a team that shared her values and cared about the impact they made on the world. The room was quiet for a moment, as if Eleanor was allowing Leela to absorb the offer fully. Lila's mind raced with questions and possibilities. She thought about her little brother, imagining how proud he would be, how much easier life could become for both of them. She thought about her apartment, her future, the chance to finally live without constant worry about bills and work schedules. But beyond that, she thought about herself, about the person she wanted to become, and realized that this opportunity was a stepping stone to a version of herself she had only dreamed of. "Do you have any questions?" Eleanor asked, breaking the silence. Lila shook her head, words failing her for a moment. She could only nod, her eyes wide with emotion. Finally, she spoke, her voice trembling but clear. I don't know what to say. Thank you. I don't even know how I could ever repay you for this." Eleanor smiled warmly. "You don't need to repay me, Lila. This isn't about repayment. It's about seeing the right qualities and giving someone the chance to grow. You've already shown that in the way you live your life." Leela left the office that day, feeling like she was walking on air. Every step she took, every breath she drew felt infused with possibility. The city around her, which had once felt intimidating and cold, now seemed full of opportunity. She remembered the disappointment of missing her interview and realized that what had felt like a failure had been the first step toward something far greater. Her life was no longer a series of struggles and setbacks. It was a path unfolding in ways she had never imagined. Guided by her choices and values, that evening, Leela shared the news with her brother. His eyes widened in disbelief, and then a huge smile spread across his face. They hugged tightly, both overwhelmed by joy and relief. Lila realized that this opportunity was not just hers. It was a chance to improve life for both of them, to create stability, hope, and freedom. For the first time in a long time, she felt that her hard work, patience, and moral choices had been recognized in the most meaningful way. Over the next few days, Lila began preparing for her new role. She researched, read, and learned as much as she could about Eleanor's company and the work they did. She felt a mixture of nervousness and excitement, knowing that challenges lay ahead, but also confident that she was capable. For years she had been underestimated, overlooked, and dismissed. Now someone important had recognized her potential. And that recognition gave her courage she had never known she possessed, even as she prepared. Lila often reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She thought about the morning she helped Eleanor with her groceries, the choice she had made to prioritize compassion over punctuality, and the way that small decision had changed everything. She realized that life didn't always reward people in obvious ways. But sometimes the consequences of our choices appeared when we least expected them. Her act of kindness had opened a door she never knew existed. And she understood now that integrity and empathy were powerful forces in shaping a life. By the time Leela began her first day at Eleanor's company, she was filled with a sense of purpose and determination. She knew that challenges would come, that mistakes would be made, and that the path ahead would not always be smooth. But she also knew that she had been given a rare chance, one that recognized not only her skills, but the person she was inside. Lila walked into her new office with her head held high, ready to face whatever came next. Inspired by the knowledge that her choices and character had brought her to this moment of transformation, the first days were filled with learning and adjustment. Lila met new colleagues, familiarized herself with company procedures, and gradually began contributing ideas. Every small success brought confidence, and every challenge reminded her that growth required effort, patience, and perseverance. And through it all, she carried with her the quiet reminder that kindness and integrity mattered, that they could change not only her own life, but the lives of those around her in ways that she might never fully understand by the end of the first week. Lila realized that this opportunity was not just a job or a career, it was a beginning. A beginning shaped by her choices, her heart, and her willingness to do what was right even when it was hard. And in that realization, she found a sense of peace, pride, and excitement that made every long hour, every sacrifice, and every moment of doubt from the past feel worth it. Lila woke up on the morning of her first full week in the new role with a sense of excitement she had never felt before. The alarm clock rang softly, but unlike the mornings she used to dread, she didn't hit snooze or linger in bed with worry. Instead, she sat up, took a deep breath, and smiled. Her life had changed in ways she had never imagined, and she was determined to make the most of this opportunity. She got ready carefully, choosing a professional outfit that made her feel confident, thought about the journey that had brought her here from the long nights at the diner to the missed interview, and the small act of kindness that had altered the course of her life forever. As she walked to the office, the city felt different to her. The streets no longer seemed overwhelming or intimidating. The honking cars, the rush of pedestrians, and even the gray buildings that once felt cold and distant now seemed full of potential. Lila realized that her perspective had changed. It wasn't the city that was different, it was her. She carried herself with confidence and hope, knowing that her choices mattered and that she had the ability to influence her own future. Every step toward the office was a reminder of the resilience and compassion that had gotten her this far. Upon entering the office, Lila was greeted warmly by colleagues she had met earlier in the week. They had been kind, welcoming, and supportive, helping her understand processes and introducing her to the company culture. Lila noticed that this workplace was unlike any she had ever experienced. There was a sense of respect, encouragement, and teamwork that made her feel valued. It was clear that Eleanor Chambers' vision had shaped not just the work, but the people. Lila felt proud to be part of a company where integrity and kindness were as important as skill and knowledge. The first task Lila received was challenging, requiring both creativity and careful attention to detail. She felt a wave of nervousness, remembering her past struggles with self-doubt. But then she reminded herself of Eleanor's words, the confidence she had expressed in Lila's character and abilities. That reassurance gave her courage. She focused on the task, carefully planning each step, and gradually, the work began to take shape. When she completed it, her supervisor praised her effort and thoughtful approach. Lila felt a surge of pride. For the first time, she realized that her hard work and determination were recognized and valued, not just assumed or overlooked. Over the next few weeks, Lila grew into her role, gaining confidence and skill with each project she handled. She found herself enjoying the work in ways she had never imagined, discovering strengths she hadn't realized she had. She learned to navigate challenges with patience, to communicate effectively with colleagues, and to take initiative in ways that made her feel capable and respected. Every small success strengthened her belief in herself and reminded her that the path she had chosen, guided by compassion and integrity, was leading her to a fulfilling and meaningful life. One afternoon, Eleanor invited Lila to her office for a conversation. Lila felt a mixture of curiosity and nervousness as she entered the room. Eleanor smiled warmly and gestured for her to sit. "Lila," she said, "I want you to know how proud I am of your progress. You've shown that your values, your kindness, integrity, and commitment are not just words, but actions. That is rare, and it makes a difference not only in the company, but in the people you work with." Lila felt a lump in her throat, touched by the recognition. Eleanor continued, explaining that she had noticed how Lila's presence and attitude had inspired others in the office to act with more empathy and collaboration. It was clear that her example was quietly shaping the culture of the team. Lila thought back to the day she had helped Eleanor with her groceries, realizing how one simple act could ripple out in ways she had never imagined. At the time, she had felt torn and unsure if she had made the right choice. Now, she understood that her decision had been a turning point, not just for her life, but for the way she approached every opportunity and challenge that came her way. She had learned that integrity and compassion could open doors that skill and timing alone could not. The sense of fulfillment Lila felt extended beyond her professional life. She began to see the impact on her personal life as well. She had more stability and confidence, which allowed her to support her younger brother in ways she had only dreamed of. They could plan small trips together, celebrate achievements, and share experiences without the constant worry of financial stress. Lila realized that the changes in her life were not just about the new job, they were about creating a life where she could thrive and help those she loved. Lila also began to notice how her story quietly inspired others around her. Colleagues who had seen her struggle and persevere found encouragement in her journey. Her actions reminded them that small, kind choices could lead to unexpected opportunities. Lila understood that her story was more than her own. It was a testament to the power of empathy, patience, and integrity. She felt a sense of responsibility to live up to the example she had set, not for recognition, but because she knew that her actions could positively influence the people around her. One evening, after a long but fulfilling day, Lila sat at her apartment window, reflecting on how far she had come. She thought about the diner, her long hours, and the sense of frustration she had felt when her dreams seemed out of reach. Thought about the moment she had helped Eleanor, the gratitude in the woman's eyes, and the unexpected opportunities that had followed. Lila realized that life often worked in ways that were unpredictable but meaningful. The setbacks she had faced were not failures, they were lessons. Preparing her for the moment she could step into her true potential, Lila began to embrace a new perspective on life. She understood that success was not only measured by promotions, money, or recognition, but also by the values one lived by and the positive impact one had on others. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction in knowing that her choices, made with care and compassion, had led to meaningful change in her own life and could inspire others to do the same. Every act of kindness, every decision guided by integrity, had the power to ripple outward, influencing the world in ways she could never fully see. Months passed, and Lila continued to grow within Eleanor's company, contributed to important projects, and began mentoring newer employees, sharing not just her knowledge, but also the lessons she had learned about empathy, perseverance, and courage. She saw how her actions, even small ones, could encourage others to act with integrity and kindness, creating a positive culture that extended beyond the office. Lila realized that success was no longer just about her own achievement. It was about helping others succeed and inspiring them to lead with heart. Through it all, Lila never forgot the moment that had changed everything, the morning she chose to help an elderly woman rather than rush to her interview. That single act, simple and human, had set in motion a chain of events that led to a life she could have only dreamed of. She carried that memory as a reminder that the right choice, even when it is difficult, can open doors that no one could anticipate. It gave her courage to face future challenges, knowing that integrity and compassion would always guide her in the right direction. By the end of the year, Lila had become a valued member of the company, respected not just for her work, but for her character. She had grown into a confident, capable professional who inspired others through her actions and attitude. She knew that her journey was ongoing, that challenges and opportunities would continue to come. But she also knew that she had the inner strength, values, and resilience to navigate whatever came next. Lila's life had transformed in ways she never expected, and she understood that her story was more than just a personal triumph. It was a testament to the power of kindness, integrity, and perseverance. She had learned that success was not just about reaching goals, but about the way one lives, the choices one makes, and the positive impact one has on others. Her life was now a story of hope, inspiration, and the reminder that even small acts of goodness can lead to extraordinary outcomes. Lila smiled as she looked out the window that night, thinking about the future. She knew it would not always be easy, but she also knew that she was prepared, not just for the challenges ahead, but for the opportunity to continue living a life guided by heart, courage, and compassion. And in that moment, she felt a quiet joy that came from knowing she was exactly where she was meant to be.